Game logos are some of the most important parts of video games. Other than the game itself. They're often the first things you'll see from the game. Other than the game itself.
Hi there people, it's Pyxcore, and yep, I'm officially out of ideas. Who'd have thought the concept of talking about video games gets stale after you do it 20 times? So, I'll just draw from this hat for a topic. Oh, it's game logos. Well, that's a relief. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with that script that I had just written.
When you make a game, it's important for people to know what it's called. That's where logos come in. I mean, without a logo, I would have no clue what this game is called. And I still don't. But logos are incredibly important parts of video games. They're often the first thing that people see, and sometimes the last if they're lucky.
But in order to talk about game logos, we need to talk about the inventor of logos, John Logo. And this is his first ever logo.
Well, it looks like that inspired the logo for the first widely known video game, Pong. I say widely known because it wasn't the first video game, nor was it the first arcade game. The title for first video game goes to Tennis for Two. There are other games that may have came before, but this one is often credited with being the first. Tennis for Two didn't have a logo, though. The first arcade game was Computer Space, which also didn't have a logo. Not on the cabinet, at least. But Pong featured a logo right there on the cabinet, and it's not very interesting.
Wow, a logo wasn't interesting?
The Atari 2600 version, though, I hate this thing. It's the same logo, but they added the word sports, and it really doesn't matter what this logo does, I'll hate it regardless. Atari 2600 games pretty much stayed with this generic logo for basically every game, even if those games were anything but generic. But then we move over to some third generation games, and their logos are not any better. That's just on the boxes though. A lot of NES games use this black box template, which looks nice, but in the games themselves, there are actual logos. Super Mario Bros. Has a logo that's still being used in games today, and while this logo definitely fits well with the color palette of the game, I don't think it fits the overall vibe. I mean, Super Mario Bros. Is a very wacky game. I mean, the main villain is a lizard. Well, luckily, where Super Mario Bros. Fails, The Legend of Zelda picks up the slack. This game has two distinct logos. See, The Legend of Zelda didn't follow the black box template despite the fact that it was published by Nintendo at a time when they were still doing that. This logo looks like a fantasy logo, which is what Zelda is.
A logo?
It's a fantasy game, and that's what this logo encapsulates. Say, do you know what other game has more than one logo? Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, I always try to find ways to link Zelda and Sonic together in my free time, like... they both have shoes.
Man, Sonic just has so many logos. I'm trying to stick to individual game logos here, but the logo on the Sonic 1 box art in Japan is different from the one in the US. But then, eventually, the Japanese logo became the main logo everywhere, but that logo got a variation that added some color. All to say, I'm just gonna look at the North American logos. I honestly think that both the North American logos are great. The word Sonic is in red, which I assume is colored after his shoes.
Well, that's the first time anyone's ever said that.
And the words the and hedgehog look very fluent as well, like they're in the middle of running.
And that's the first time anyone said that.
Then we get into the game itself, and this logo is fine. While it fits the colorful vibe of Sonic, I don't really care for it. Oh yeah, and Sonic's also in it. I guess the one thing that could be said about this logo is that it's flowing, which could be a representation of Sonic's carefree attitude, but that's a bit of a stretch.
And the shoe thing isn't?
Moving on to the 5th generation of consoles, we have the Super Mario 64 logo, and I have to say this is so much better than the first Super Mario Bros. Logo. That one looked like you were about to play something devoid of joy. This one looks like you're in for a fun and wacky time, which is what Super Mario 64 is. Now, to be fair, this type of logo was used in Super Mario Bros. 3, but it wasn't nearly as colorful. At this point in gaming, logos fit their games pretty well and not much changed. New series came and their logos were fitting. And that's pretty much where we are today with logos. But then there's the logos for the consoles themselves. Nintendo's main logo is red. The Switch logo, however, is in the shape of the Joy-Cons, which I think is really clever. The PlayStation logo is a P and an S, and this has been a staple ever since the PS1. The PS5 logo, however, started with the PS3. I think it looks modern and pretty cool. The Xbox logo is iconic in gaming. It is an X in a circle, and it is also sourdough bread.
While game logos don't seem like an interesting topic at first, I was surprised by how much there was to talk about. And I missed a lot. So, I guess it's time to draw the next topic from the hat. Alright.
One episode later.
Hi there people, it's Pyxcore. Today we're going to talk about the number 19 in gaming.